For 20 years, world football has orbited two names. Not two teams, two men. Every World Cup since 2006 has had at least one of them standing at the center of the story, sometimes both. And in 2026, for the first time ever, both of them are still standing at the same World Cup. At the same age, most players have already gone home for good. But today, in the space of 48 hours, that 20-year orbit might finally break. Not because of tactics, not because of form, but because of two teams nobody circled on their bracket, Croatia and Cape Verde. One of them plays Cristiano Ronaldo. The other plays Lionel Messi. By tomorrow night, we might know which legend's story ends first. This isn't a preview. This is a countdown. Knockout football doesn't care about reputation. It doesn't care what you did in 2014 or 2018 or 2022. The group stage rewards the best team over 3 separate games. You can lose once, draw twice, and still survive. Knockout football throws that safety net away completely. One game, one winner. No draws, no second chances, no coming back next week. Same players, same skill, completely different math. One bad half, one red card, one deflected shot off a defender's shin, and 20 years of history can end on a random Thursday evening in Toronto. That's the actual mechanic behind why this feels so heavy. It's not about who's the better player over a career. It's about who is still standing when the referee blows the final whistle tonight. Ronaldo could be the greatest goal scorer international football has ever produced, and none of that matters if Croatia score one more goal than Portugal in 90 minutes. Messi could be the most decorated player in the history of the sport, and none of that matters if Cape Verde find one moment of magic in front of their own bench. That's the trade knockout football makes with legends. It doesn't ask what you've done. It only asks what you can still do, tonight. So why does this particular round feel bigger than a normal knockout game? Age. Ronaldo is 41 years old. Messi turned 39 last month. In football years, that's not a player entering his prime. That's a player borrowing time from a body that stopped negotiating a while ago. Here's some context most fans don't have. This is Ronaldo's 6th World Cup. It's also Messi's 6th World Cup. They are, right now, the only two men in the history of the tournament to play in 6 of them. Think about that for a second. 20 years of World Cups, hundreds of the greatest players alive, and exactly 2 human beings have made it to 6 editions. Both of them are on the same bracket, right now, this week. Neither man has stood up in a press conference and said, "This is my last World Cup." They don't have to. The math already says it for them. A body doesn't get younger. A career doesn't get longer. And a World Cup only comes around once every 4 years, which means the runway left for either of these two isn't measured in seasons anymore. It's measured in matches. So every match from here isn't just 3 points or a place in the next round. It's a countdown clock, ticking in real time in front of the largest television audience football will get this decade. And today, that clock ticks twice. Let's start with Ronaldo. Portugal drew Croatia in the first knockout round. Not Ghana, not Uzbekistan, not one of the smaller nations still finding their footing on this stage. Croatia. A country of under 4 million people that has somehow built a habit, tournament after tournament, of outlasting bigger, richer, more talented squads in exactly these must-win moments. In 2018, Croatia beat Denmark on penalties, then beat host nation Russia in extra time, then went all the way to the final. In 2022, they knocked Brazil out on penalties in the quarterfinal, a Brazil side that many considered the most talented in the tournament, and reached the semifinal before finishing 3rd. Twice in a row, Croatia have been the team standing in the way of somebody else's coronation. That's not luck. That's a pattern. And now they stand in front of Ronaldo. Here's the part that makes it personal instead of just tactical. Standing across that same pitch is Luka Modric. Same generation as Ronaldo. Same 2 decades of wear on the body. Same quiet, unspoken understanding that this is very likely it. Modric made his 200th appearance for Croatia earlier in this tournament, becoming only the 4th man in the history of international football to reach that number. He's 40 years old, and earlier this tournament he became the oldest player to register an assist at a World Cup match in almost 60 years. 2 legends, both racing the exact same clock, both refusing to publicly admit the clock exists. One of them walks off tonight with his story still open. The other one doesn't. Croatia isn't just a difficult draw for Portugal on paper. Croatia is precisely the opponent you do not want when your legs are 41 years old, your recovery time is longer than it used to be, and your margin for error has shrunk down to basically zero. They don't panic. They don't blink. And in knockout football, patience beats star power more often than highlight reels want you to admit. Croatia aren't trying to outdazzle Ronaldo's legacy. They're trying to end it, quietly, efficiently, the same way they've ended other favorites before him. Now Messi. Argentina is expected to win this one, and comfortably. On paper, that expectation makes sense. But that's exactly why this game should make you nervous if you're an Argentina fan, not calm. Cape Verde is a nation of roughly 500,000 people. For context, that's smaller than the population of a single mid-sized American city. And they are playing in their first ever World Cup appearance, in their tournament debut, full stop. They got here the hard way, through 3 consecutive draws in the group stage, grinding out results against Spain, Uruguay, and Saudi Arabia without a single win on the scoreboard, and it was still enough. They've already done something no nation their size has ever done in the history of this competition. They reached the knockout stage as, by population, the smallest country to ever get this far. That should worry Argentina more than it comforts them. Here's the psychology most previews skip entirely. Teams with nothing to prove tend to play loose, careful, cautious, protecting a reputation that's already built. Teams with everything to prove play free, aggressive, completely unshackled from expectation, because there's no reputation left to protect. And free teams are historically the ones who pull off the impossible. Football history doesn't run short on these stories. The small nation, the overlooked underdog, the fixture that was supposed to be a routine formality, turning into the night nobody who was there ever forgets. Cape Verde already has one advantage no amount of star power can buy. Nobody expects anything from them, which means there's nothing to lose and everything to gain. Messi doesn't have that luxury. He's carrying an entire nation's championship expectations, a legacy that's already the greatest of all time, and a body that, brilliant as it still is, isn't 25 anymore. Cape Verde isn't feeling pressure walking into that stadium. Messi is. Quick pause. If this kind of story is genuinely your thing, go ahead and subscribe right now, so you don't miss what happens after these 2 games play out. Seriously, it helps more than you'd think. Back to it. Here's what most people watching tonight are going to miss, though. The real danger isn't the upset itself. It's what an early exit does to the entire story we've been telling for 20 years. If Ronaldo goes out in this round, there is no grand farewell match on the biggest possible stage. There's no emotional final bow in a packed stadium with the whole football world watching. There's just a stadium in Toronto, a scoreline nobody predicted, and a flight home. The story doesn't get a dramatic final chapter. It just stops. Same logic applies to Messi. A debutante nation with nothing to lose does not care that you're the greatest player of all time. They do not care about your trophy cabinet, your Ballon d'Ors, or the documentary that's presumably already being edited about your legacy. They care about 90 minutes, and whichever team scores more of them. And here's the detail that makes this whole storyline even sharper. In 20 years, and across 6 World Cups apiece, Messi and Ronaldo have never once faced each other in an actual World Cup match. They've played each other exactly twice in their entire careers, and both times were low-stakes international friendlies, one in Geneva back in 2011, one in Manchester in 2014. Never once on this stage, with this much on the line. Legends rarely get to choose their own ending. Most of the time, football chooses it for them, on a random weeknight, in a city they didn't pick, against an opponent nobody saw coming. And none of this is hypothetical, or next year, or some far-off scenario you'll read about later. This is happening right now, this week, on stages built specifically for this tournament, in Toronto and in Miami, inside the exact same 48-hour window. Portugal versus Croatia kicks off tonight. Argentina versus Cape Verde kicks off tomorrow. By the time both final whistles blow, we will know considerably more about how this era of football actually ends. So, if you want my honest read on both of these, Portugal survives tonight, but nervously, not comfortably. Croatia has the tournament experience and the knockout football pedigree to make this deeply uncomfortable for 90 minutes, even if they may not have the outright firepower to fully finish the job. Still, the heavier pressure in this specific matchup sits almost entirely on Ronaldo's side of the pitch, because Portugal is expected to win, and Croatia has built an entire recent history out of punishing teams that are merely expected to win. Argentina should win their game more comfortably. But should is doing an enormous amount of work in that sentence. Cape Verde's path to an upset is genuinely less likely on paper than Croatia's, and yet somehow more dangerous in practice, because nobody in that Argentina dressing room has ever prepared for an opponent with this literally nothing left to lose. There's no scouting report for a team that's already exceeded every possible expectation just by being here. So here's the bottom line, in 3 parts. Ronaldo carries the heavier pressure, because Croatia are a known, proven, recurring threat to favorites. Messi faces the more unpredictable opponent, because Cape Verde are an unknown quantity with house money and nothing to protect. One legend is fighting recent history, the other is fighting pure chaos. Different traps, laid by completely different opponents, but the same possible ending waiting at the bottom of both of them. In 48 hours, we'll know whether Messi and Ronaldo live to fight another day in this tournament, or whether Croatia and Cape Verde become the 2 nations remembered as the ones who ended football's greatest individual era. So here's the entire story, compressed into one breath. For 2 decades, Messi and Ronaldo have quietly defined what a World Cup moment actually looks like, from a teenage Messi in 2006 to a record 6th appearance for both men in 2026. Now, within 2 days of each other, 2 teams that were built to be nobody's obstacle, Croatia and Cape Verde, hold the power to write the final line of that 2-decade story. Not because they're better players, not because they have more talent, or a longer resume, or a bigger name, because knockout football never once asks who's better across a career. It only ever asks one question: who survives the night? Here's the fact that should genuinely stop you for a second. Cape Verde's entire national population is smaller than the crowd some NFL stadiums hold on a single Sunday afternoon. And that small nation is 90 minutes away from potentially ending the World Cup career of the most decorated player in the sport's history. So tell me in the comments, because I actually want to know this one. Which legend do you think is in more danger tonight and tomorrow? Ronaldo or Messi? And out of the 2, which upset do you honestly think is more likely to happen? Drop your prediction down there, I'll be reading them. You're welcome. Subscribe if you enjoyed this type of content. It means a lot.